Hi, this is the voice of Ben Zartman from Zartman Rigging, and today I'm going to show you how to make an eye in 12 plate solid braid rope, and I'm going to braid it, I'm going to splice it onto a thimble just like this one here. First thing to do, this is 7/8 rope, and we don't need big berry lengths like we do with Dyneema, so I'm going to make a mark at about a foot back. 1 foot of rope ought to be enough to unlay. And I'm just going to cut a piece of tape and I'm going to put a marker at that 1 foot mark. There we go. Now this rope was burned here at the end at the rope store, so I'm going to cut off the burned part. And I'm going to take off the tape that remains and unlay all of the strands, all 12 strands, back to my tape mark. Before I get too crazy on laying them, I'm just going to splay them out a little bit. And this is the most time-consuming part of the project. I'm going to put a piece of tape around each one. I like to use this vinyl electrical tape for smaller stuff like this, just maybe an 1.5 inch, 1.25 inch piece. And what you'll see as you do each strand is that half of them want to twist this way to become tighter, and half of them want to twist the other way. That's called the S and the Z component. So 6 of these strands are S, which means they're turning clockwise. 6 of them are Z, which means they're turning counterclockwise. So what I do is, as I take each strand, I make sure that I'm putting the tape on in a direction that will tend to tighten it up rather than loosen it. You see, I can turn that. That tends to tighten it up. So here we go. With apologies for the strange camera angle. I'm still working on a better setup for my YouTube channel, and I hope this doesn't turn into just a video of my hands doing random things with the thing hidden behind them. I'm also trying something new in this video, in that I have a little bit of gentle background music going on. This is Bellini's Capulets and Montagues. Essentially another sung version of Romeo and Juliet. Possibly my favorite one. So, if I start crying at how beautiful it is halfway through this splicing video, you'll have to forgive me for being a sop. Would that be a sap? Anyhow, you see the necessity of keeping oneself entertained while taping 12 individual strands of this rope. This rope right here is a called Mega Braid, made by New England Ropes, and it's used for dock lines. I'm using it for mooring pennant. That's what I'm making today. And it is a very nice sort of rope. There's another variety, I should say, of Mega Braid called Mega Braid II, in which each of these strands is a braided piece of cord, and so it sticks together a lot easier. It's a really far superior to this regular Mega Braid, but not a lot of people carry it for some reason. But as far as solid braid dock lines go, it's my favorite material, the Mega Braid 2. Okay, so now I've got them all taped up, so they're not going to go flying everywhere. I'm going to quickly unlay this back to the tape. And again, just trying not to snag any pieces. The Mega Braid 2 tends to snag less because of the braided nature of each strand. All right, here we go. Now that I've got back to the tape, what I want to do, and you will also, is to make pairs. You're going to take one S and one Z, and you're going to tape them together into a pair. So let's see. If I twist this direction, and I twist this the other direction, each one gets tighter. I don't know if you can see that there. So that's going to be a pair. And they're right next to each other in the rope. And what I like to do is I like to tape my strand pairs with a different sort of tape than I used to tape each individual strand. And the reason for that will be very visible later on. Now you might ask yourselves, why is he cutting up his fid length, his fid gauge tape? This is the fid gauge sort of tape that I use for splicing double braid. And the fact is that I got an entire batch of it that had the numbers printed wrong. So the gauge was printed incorrectly. And so I use it as utility tape around the shop. Let's see, this one spins this way. This one spins the same way, so I cannot use them as a pair. Let me find one that matches this and turn them into a pair. There we go. These two will become a beautiful pair. They're like a Capulet and a Montague, going in opposite directions and yet joined in a beautiful union. All right, let's keep making pairs. Sometimes when I've got all my pairs made and I find that I made a pair out of strands that were at opposite ends of the rope, I can just undo two of the pairs and match them up differently. And that works out pretty good. This way. Okay, there's another pair. What we should wind up with, what we will wind up with at the end, is 6 strand pairs. There we go. Now I've gotten to the end and 2 of them are going the same direction, which means that one of my strand pairs is wrong. Let's see. So when you leave the house and someone says, do you have another pair of shoes exactly like that at home? It happens to me all the time. This is the same scenario. See, it's turning this way, it's turning this way. So we're just going to go about, manage all of our strand pairs, examine them until we find out where a Capulet and a Capulet have hooked up, and sever them and find a Montague to go with our Capulet. This is tight. This is tight. These are good. Well, here we go. These are the culprit right here. So I'm going to undo this one. And again, as everyone knows who's watched me do anything for any amount of time, fixing mistakes is my specialty because I make them plenty, and there's nothing better than knowing how to remediate your mistakes. Okay, let's see here. Let's turn this way. Okay, these are a pair, so these are going to want to be a pair. Sometimes it gets a little complicated. There we go. We found our pairs. This one's coming from far around the world. We'll bring it this way. Okay, now we're going to tape those back together and get into the actual bit of the splicing. This is the most tedious part. Separating these guys, taping them, finding the pairs, putting them together. After this, it gets a lot more exciting. Oh, yeah. It's going to become a jolly barrel of laughs in just a moment. Look at that. Okay. Try and keep my hands in the frame and not shield what's going on. So now I'm going to find the thimble I want to splice around. Look at this honker. This is a 316 stainless steel thimble. I'm going to form the eye around it, and I want it to be reasonably tight. So the first thing I have to do, all of this material is going to go into here. But obviously, half the strands have to start on the other side. So the way to get them across is to just take a fid and bury them through. Whichever is the closest one, we're going to go straight through, and then we're going to start our tucks. For this, I like one of these aluminum anodized fids. Yale Ropes makes them. I hope to have a line of them one day myself. I'm going to go straight through the center of the rope. Trying not to snag in between any of the strands, not to split them. And I'm going to pull one strand pair through. Nice and snug. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to just take this strand pair a couple of tucks up so that it doesn't distract anymore. It's going to be out of the way, out of sight, out of mind, not distracting. And where I came out, I'm just going to go up that same column, that same line of picks. We don't cross lines of picks. We stick to the line of picks we started on. And the splice is over 1, under 2. So I'm going to go over this one and under the 2 on the same line of picks. I'm just going to go up one line of picks. So over 1, under 2 with my pair. I like to not twist them too much as they come through so that they look tidy. And then with this black rope, it's really hard to see that I just did anything, but I did. I'm going to do it again. Over 1, under 2. And I could do another set of tucks, but the problem is if I get too carried away, then all of the material I'm putting under here squeezes, and by the time I get to my last strand pair, it's going to get pretty tight. So I'm going to just leave a little bit of slack by only doing 2 tucks with this one for now. I'm going to find the next strand pair that needs to go through the center, and this strand pair is not pleasing me right now. Let's see if I can maybe remediate a strand pair by making some closer together. Look at that. These guys want to be close together. Let's divorce this strand pair and the other one and reunite them. And pretend they're Hollywood actors and you just get divorced and remarried on a whim. Because look at that, those want to be together. They just want to. So it was a pair made in the rope factory. If I had been a little more careful making my strand pairs adjacent to each other at the beginning of it all, I wouldn't have had to do this. But there we go. We have a blessed union of strand pairs. And these two may also, well, now they're pretty close together. Let's just tape them now. And then we won't have to think about it anymore. What you're seeing here is sort of the process that this almost always looks like. You don't just blast into it and do it perfect first try every time. Sometimes you have to stop and back up and remediate, and that's okay. Now I need to get this strand pair to this side. So I'm going to go essentially in the same hole as I went with the other one, and I want to come out at the adjacent line of picks. So I'm going to dive in here, and I'm going to come out, how about right there? How's that look? Let's do that. Here we go. Make sure nothing snags, and pull it through. Pull it nice and snug. Now, it's going to be pretty clear that this wants to travel up this line of picks. So, following the same rubric as before, over 1, under 2. And sometimes the fid wants to grab extraneous yarns. We should seek to avoid that where possible. No extraneous strandage for us, if we can help it. Sometimes it happens. It's not the end of the world. It's just a good habit to foster, to try and avoid as much as possible. So now I've got my second line of strands here. It's coming out next to the other one. I've gone up two tucks with each. Let's get the next one started. And so let's see, let's find ourselves a happy couple. And once again, I think I may have to do some divorce and remarriage just so that my strands look all the way tidy. No, I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to make this pair go now not all the way through the rope. In fact, they just have to come out at this set of strands here. So it's not a very long tuck under, just under 3 strands there to the starting spot. And then I'm ready to start. Pull it snug. Snug these up a little bit too. And now I'm going to go up this line. Over 1, under 2. There it is. All right. Well, if this video wasn't boring before, it's got to be boring now because I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. Over 1, under 2. 2 tucks with each to get things started. Snug them up out of the way, and now I'm starting to look like a splice. So I have 3 more strand pairs to tuck what I like to do, if I've got my offer ones essentially tucked, I like to do the nearest ones last. So I'm going to do a divorce and remarriage right here, because these two strands, they just want to be together. They were made for each other. So we'll take this off. And we'll take this off. It's very important when you're doing these splices to not rush. Haste makes waste is the popular proverb. It's better to go slow, take your time, remediate when necessary, and do as pretty of a job as you can. An ugly splice may still be strong, but it's just not as satisfying as a pretty splice. Okay, so this needs to come out at this one, this strand pair. And rather than go over all these ropes and come out there and make an ugly sort of, I'm just gonna dig it underneath everything. Come out right there. And the goal, the objective is to avoid having any spot where these go over more than one strand, right? Because our rubric is over 1, under 2. And so we want to kind of keep that up. Now I'm going to go over this one, over this, and under these two. And now my body, the standing part of my rope, is getting hard to work with because I'm losing all that slack by jamming fat bits of rope into it. So here we go. Two tucks. I've got 2 more strand pairs to go, and as luck would have it, I have 2 more open lanes, as it were, of traffic to go up. So I'm going to start by going under 2 with this one, since it's right there, right there. There are my 2 berries with that. Last strand. I'm going to go under these 2 because that's going to give me the tightest, nicest entry. I could go over the near one and then start again, start down, but see, I really want to avoid this looking huge. Now, the fastidious might object that my picks are staggered. I'm not going under the 2 on one column exactly next to the 2 on the other one. When that happens, just because of the vicissitudes of this, you see, one's coming out a little ahead of the other. The best thing to do is to just pretend like you wanted it that way, because it makes a more smooth splice rather than a splice all of them coming out at the same latitude each time. And it's great to, if something works out a certain way, to just believe that that is exactly how you wanted it. If it works out the other way in perfect symmetry, then the best thing to do is to pretend that you wanted that perfect symmetry. That was your goal all along. So I'm going to take each one. That's called managing expectations. Okay, back to what I was saying. I'm going to go each one 4 tucks ultimately. I want 4 tucks with each strand pair. Let me see. I need one more tuck. You see I'm coming out in a slightly offset spot, and again, the world will not end if these are slightly offset. It just staggers my entries. No big deal. Okay, a couple more to go. Everything you do, you got to do it 6 times. Nice to make sure that you don't get any excess twists in your strands as you go. Look at that. It grabbed a strand and pulled it through untimely. How about that? But I saw it in time to remediate. And no harm done. Okay, one more with this one. It's sometimes difficult not to jump the rails and take one pair and wind up going down another lane than what you had meant to do or were supposed to do. Okay, 2 more pairs, and then we're going to start tapering. And now this rope, look at that, it's just so tightened up from having so much material put into the slack that there's not much slack left. That's good for the friction that holds the splice together. But it's a little tough for the poor rigger splicing the rope. It's got to kind of really dig things in. Still, here we are, down to the last, look at that, that's so tight. The last 2 tucks on the last one. These sort of splicing fids really give you leverage because they're so long, you can really just kind of lever along the back. That rooster you probably hear in the background is my new enemy. The neighbor's rooster wanders over from next door to beat me up. So a couple of days ago, he actually initiated a scrap with me, and I lost my first cockfight. And he's out there crowing his defiance. He wants me to come out and fight him again. There he is. Earlier today, he followed me into the shop and tried to threaten me in my own premises. So now we have, getting back to splicing rope, we have a nice kind of smooth 4 tucks with each strand pair. Now we have to do a taper. The way to do a taper, he wants blood. He got the taste for blood in our fight the other day, and now he wants more of it. The way to do the taper, as before I get distracted by the enmity of a chicken, is to take a strand pair apart, leave one behind, and with a thinner fid now, go over one, under two. So continuing up the same path that they began on together, one is going to continue up it by himself, leaving the other behind to wonder, what did she do wrong? And these tucks, because they're only with one, are a lot easier. I do 3 more tucks, 4 initial tucks, 3 tucks to taper, and I call it a day. You could taper longer if you like. You can stagger the tapers. There's a lot of different ways to do this. What's important is that those first 4 initial tucks give you the real strength of the taper, of the splice, and the taper is more of a decorative construction. Now, the absolute nerd might just decide that he's going to taper one pair, take the S strand, and the other take the Z strand. Or he might decide that he wants to take all S strands up or all Z strands up. I have never been able to care enough to bother looking at that. That's something for people far more gung-ho than me. Oh man, that guy's out there flapping his wings and threatening. The good thing is he doesn't know I have a second door to the shop, so I can go out the back way. And I'd like to think I could go out the back way and ambush him with a bat or something, but nope, I'm going to go out the back way and hope he doesn't see me. Just slip away and escape. Well, anybody who's gotten this far and wants to just fast forward to the end is probably wise to do so, because all I'm doing is sitting here doing the boring business of tucking each one 3 more times. And okay, you can tell the ones that have not been separated are the ones that still need to be tucked, need to be tapered. So I only separate my strand pair as I'm going to take one of the strands to carry along. If I'm ever not sure of where I need to go, I can pull in the pairs and I'll see where it tightens up, and I know which of the which lane essentially I have to go down, because this is the easiest spot to accidentally jump lanes in. If this little bit sticking out bums me out too much, I can snip it with scissors and make a nicer tip to go into the back of my fid. But I seem to be managing here without getting too carried away with it. Let's see, 1, 2. I'm gonna go one more. Okay, let's see, 2 more to go. Let's do this one next. Working our way around in a circle. Over 1, under 2, over 1, under 2, time and again. Oops, I didn't go far enough there, I'll just push it. Okay, over 1, under 2. This is a lesson on why it's important to tape nice and tight. Because because then you have a better tape tip to work with. There we go. We're almost there. And we have one more to go. Let's see. This one comes from over here. We'll undo the tape that joins them. And this one. Yeah, that's where it comes from. Now the body of my rope is getting tight again because I've crammed so much material into it that I'm pretty grateful. I'm going to cut this end off here. Now I don't have all this hair sticking out. I can kind of get that better into the back of the fid, the little hollow at the back of the fid, which is so useful. You can also do this splice with a Swedish fid if you prefer. I'm just so used to these aluminum fids that I prefer them. Okay, so now we have a tapered splice. 6 of the strands have been left behind. 6 of them have carried on. And at this point, we need to cut them off and trim them, as it were. I like to do that with a hot knife because then they don't tend to get all fuzzy. So I'm going to take my hot knife, and this hot knife is getting old. It takes a while to heat up. I'm afraid I'm going to have to buy a new one soon. In order to buy a new hot knife, I'm going to have to afford it, hopefully by selling stuff off of my web store. And the web store is at zartmancruising.com. And one of the things you can find on the web store is my book, Modern Splicing, in which this splice, as well as many others, are to be found. And you can either get a physical spiral bound copy, which is awesome, or you can download an e-version of it for those who don't like physical books, who want to have it maybe on a screen to look at. If you want, you can make a little pancake of material so these can't suck back, as long as you're careful not to damage the standing strands of the rope. Some people just tape each of these little bits as they come out and trim on big boat hawsers. That's common. That's seen a lot. I prefer to cut these off kind of flush, and then if I want to tidy them up later, I can melt them down a little bit more. But this is an exercise that often ends in scorched fingers for me. All right. So there it is, just kind of a tapered eye splice in 12 plate solid braid. I'm going to cut this tape off carefully so as not to engage any strands with the scissors. Now you could have done this, I could have done this with a little twine seizing instead of tape. Tape was just easier at the time, and once I get it off, I'll stop this video and we'll all be done. How about that?